Imagine a time when word of mouth about someone extraordinary was so powerful, so compelling, that this, like, ancient, really revered scholar sends his best student on this long journey.
Yeah, not just to meet the person, but to actually meticulously check if the reputation was, well, true.
It sounds like something out of an epic legend, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And that's exactly the incredible story we're diving into today. We're looking at an ancient text, the Brahmāyusuttaṃ,
Okay.
and it recounts this very encounter. It gives us this really unique window into how the Buddha was seen back then.
Everything from his physical appearance to, like, the tiniest details of how he acted.
Exactly. It's incredibly detailed.
So what's our mission here today as we get into this pretty rich story?
Well, our goal in this deep dive is really to pull out the most important bits of knowledge, the key insights,
We'll look at the traditions of the time, these amazing observations that were made.
and the really profound spiritual journey of this, initially quite skeptical seeker.
Right. So we're offering you a kind of shortcut to being well-informed, maybe some surprising facts, and hopefully a few of those aha moments.
Definitely hope so. So to really get the importance of this, you have to understand the buzz around the Buddha Bhagava, as he's called in the text.
Okay.
He's traveling through a region called Vidya with about 500 monks, and his reputation is, well, it's huge.
He's known by all these profound titles. Arahant,
Right, meaning a fully awakened being, perfectly enlightened.
teacher of gods and humans. These titles really signify something immense, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. They signify complete mastery, unparalleled spiritual authority.
And his teaching, his doctrine, it wasn't just seen as wise, but as beautiful in the beginning, beautiful in the middle, and beautiful in the end.
Yeah.
What does that phrase really capture?
It speaks to its wholeness, its complete effectiveness. It means the teachings work from the moment you first hear them, right through the practice, all the way to the final goal.
So like a seamless path.
Exactly. A path from ignorance to full liberation. And this fame, this is what reaches Brahmāyu.
Ah, the scholar from the intro.
That's him. A really prominent Brahmin in a city called Mithila, described as, get this, 200 years old.
200, wow, and highly respected, a master of the three Vedas.
Yes, the ancient sacred texts, plus all the related stuff, lexicons, rituals, histories, etymologies. He knew it all.
But crucially, he was also an expert in the 32 marks of a great man.
That's the key part for this story.
So, given he's this huge figure, why send his student first? Why not just go himself straight away?
That's a great point. It really shows how seriously he took these traditions, these 32 marks. This wasn't just, folklore to him.
It was serious knowledge.
Absolutely. Part of a system, almost like ancient prophecy. They believed a person with these 32 marks had one of two destinies.
Okay, what were they?
If he stayed a householder, a layman, he'd become a wheel-turning monarch. Basically, a perfect, righteous world ruler.
And the other path.
If he renounced the world, left home, he'd become a perfectly enlightened Buddha.
So sending his student, Uttara, was like initiating a formal investigation.
Exactly. A rigorous, scholarly check. He was putting his own deep knowledge of these signs, these mantras, to the ultimate test.
So Uttara sets off, finds Bhagava, exchanges greetings,
Yeah.
pretty standard stuff, and then sits down to watch carefully.
Right. And what he sees is pretty amazing. He confirms most of the 32 marks are there.
Most, but not all.
Almost all. But he doubts two specific ones. The sheathed male organ and the extensive tongue. You just can't quite verify them by looking.
Okay, those sound specific and a bit unusual. What happens then? This is where it gets really interesting, right?
Oh, it does. Because Bhagava, seemingly sensing exactly what Uttara is doubting, without a word.
He just knows.
Apparently so. He performs this, miraculous demonstration. He reveals the sheathed male organ.
Oh, okay.
And then, this is astonishing, he extends his tongue and touches both his ear holes, both his nostril holes, and then covers his entire forehead with his kan.
Covers his whole forehead with his tongue.
The whole forehead. It's described as undeniable proof, a moment clearly designed to just remove all doubt.
Yeah, I'd say that would do it. That's, wow. Understandably, this has a huge impact on Uttara.
Completely convinces him about the 32 marks. But then, he does something even more extraordinary.
More extraordinary than seeing that.
He decides to follow Bhagavav for 7 months.
7 months.
7 months. Tracking him, as the text says, like a shadow, observing every detail of his daily life, his behavior.
That's incredible dedication. What more could he possibly learn over 7 months that he didn't get from, the forehead-licking miracle?
Yeah. Well, it suggests he wanted to understand the person, the being behind the marks. How did enlightenment actually look in everyday action?
So it wasn't just about ticking boxes for the 32 signs anymore?
No, it became this deep, immersive study of what awakened conduct really means, almost like ethnographic research on an enlightened being.
And what did he observe? Beyond the miracle, he confirmed some really striking physical things too, didn't he?
Oh, yes. Things that sound mythical, but were part of this tradition. Like feet so perfectly planted that the soles had images of 1,000 spoked wheels on them.
Wheels on his feet, like a symbol.
Exactly. A symbol of universal influence, like the wheel-turning monarch idea. And his hands and feet had long, soft fingers, even slightly webbed.
Web fingers.
Subtly webbed, yes. And his skin, a golden complexion, so fine that dust literally didn't stick to it.
Doesn't stick? How?
The text implies a kind of purity or radiance, and each hair grew from its own poor, perfectly curled, clockwise blue-black. Just incredible detail.
It paints a picture of, well, perfection, doesn't it? An erect body like the god Brahma, perfect proportions, his height matching his arm span.
Exactly. A lion-like upper body, strong jaw, 40 perfectly even teeth, super white canines. The descriptions go on and on. Deep blue eyes, eyelashes like a bull's, a tuft of white hair between the eyebrows, a head shaped like a turban.
It's like a living statue embodying these ancient ideals.
Precisely. A living manifestation of that prophecy of the great man.
But you said Uttara went beyond the physical. He watched Bhagava's conduct, his deportment, and found something captivating there, too.
Yes. This is where it gets really insightful, I think. It shows this profound level of mindfulness.
How so? Like how he walked.
Exactly. His walking wasn't too fast or too slow. His steps weren't too long or too short. He didn't, bump his thighs or ankles together.
So very precise.
Perfectly balanced, yeah.
Yeah.
His body stayed straight, no leaning. And it wasn't about physical effort. It seemed to flow from this deep inner stillness.
Wow. And even how he looked at things?
Mm-hmm. He turned his whole body to look, didn't just swivel his head, didn't gaze up at the sky or down at the ground.
Focused.
Focused mostly just ahead, about the length of a plow yoke, the text says. But, and this is key, his knowledge vision went way beyond that immediate focus.
Ah, so it's that inner awareness again. Present, but also expansive.
You got it. It's a metaphor for his spiritual insight alongside his physical presence.
And this extended to everything. Entering a house, sitting down.
Everything. Graceful movements. No plopping down, no using hands to push himself up or down. When seated, zero fidgeting.
No crossed legs or ankles, no resting his chin on his hand.
None of that. Just sitting completely unperturbed. Calm, unshaken, unafraid, no goosebumps even, focused inwardly on seclusion. It's like perfect physical stillness reflecting perfect mental stillness.
It's really not just about manners, is it? It's about
Sure.
mastery.
Complete mastery. Even eating.
Right. You mentioned his eating habits were observed too.
Meticulously. Didn't slosh the water bowl, didn't take too much or too little food, washed his bowl silently.
And how he ate the food itself.
Chewed each mouthful thoroughly, maybe 2 or 3 rotations. Only brought the next bit of food when the previous one was partly finished. And the purpose, purely sustenance.
Not for taste or enjoyment.
He tasted it, yes, but the motivation wasn't attachment to flavor. It wasn't for fun or indulgence or making himself look good, just to keep the body going, avoid harm, and support the spiritual life.
That's a profound lesson in mindful consumption right there. Complete non-attachment.
Absolutely. And after the meal, he'd sit silently for a moment. Never complained about the food or hoped for more.
Instead,
He'd teach. He'd give a Dhamma talk, instructing, inspiring, gladdening everyone there.
even his leaving was noted.
Yep. Not too fast, not too slow, didn't seem reluctant to go. And his robe,
What about the robe?
it just hung perfectly, never too high or low, never clinging or flapping wildly. The wind didn't blow it away, and dust didn't stick to his body, just like his skin.
It suggests this perfect harmony, this ease with everything around him.
It really does. And in the park, where he'd often teach, he'd wash his feet, sit cross-legged, body erect, mindfulness established,
And his teaching voice.
described with 8 specific qualities. Things like distinct, intelligible, sweet, audible, rounded, deep, resonant.
And not overpowering.
Exactly. It filled the space where the assembly was, but didn't project beyond it, like it was perfectly tuned for those listening.
Amazing. And what about the impact on the people who saw all this?
Well, the text says, even after Bhagava left, people would stay behind, just talking about everything he did.
Recalling every detail.
Every detail.
Yeah.
How he walked, stood, sat, ate, taught. They marveled at it all.
It speaks volumes about his presence, his charisma. Not showy, but deeply authentic.
Profoundly authentic. Every action was like a teaching. It left this deep, lasting mark.
So eventually, Bhagava makes his way to Mithila, Brahmāyu city. He stays in a part called Magadabambhavana.
Right. And locals, Brahmins, householders, they start visiting him. Word gets to Brahmāyu.
And this time, he decides to go himself.
Yes. He sends a messenger first, though, announcing who he is, his age, knowledge, fame. Very formal. Bhagava grants permission.
And when Brahmāyu arrives,
The crowd actually parts for him, showing his status. But he's humble, tells him to stay seated, and sits down near Bhagava.
and then he does his own observation.
Exactly. He personally looks for the 32 marks. And guess what?
He has the same doubt as Uttara.
The exact same doubt about the sheathed male organ and the extensive tongue. He even asks about them in verse form.
History repeats itself. So Bhagava performs the miracle again.
He does, reveals the 2 marks directly to Brahmāyu, and responds in verses confirming, yes, all 32 marks are here, your doubt is gone.
And he adds something important, doesn't he, about why he's the Buddha.
Yes, he says it's because he has realized what is to be realized, developed what is to be developed, and abandoned what is to be abandoned. It's about inner attainment, not just outer marks.
That's the core of it. And then he invites Brahmāyu to ask questions.
An open invitation. Ask anything for your welfare now or in the future.
And Brahmāyu, being wise, focuses on the future, right? Spiritual matters.
Precisely. He feels he knows worldly stuff, christened welfare. He wants to understand future welfare liberation.
So he asks these deep questions. How does one become a true Brahmin, a master of the Vedas in the spiritual sense? An arahant, a sage.
All these terms for high spiritual attainment, he wants the real definitions. And finally, the ultimate question.
How is one called a Buddha?
That's the peak, and Bhagava answers this one in verse 2. It's a powerful definition.
Can you share it?
He says, essentially, someone who knows their past lives, sees the heavens and hells, has ended the cycle of rebirth. A sage with higher knowledge, mind purified, free from passions. Someone who's left birth and death behind, completed the holy life, crossed beyond all phenomena. That person is called a Buddha.
Wow, that's comprehensive. How does Brahma react to hearing this?
He's completely overwhelmed, utterly convinced. He prostrates at Bhagava's feet, kisses them, massages them, and tearfully announces his own name.
A man of his stature. That must have stunned the crowd.
Absolutely. They were astonished. Bhagava gently asks him to rise, recognizing his deep faith.
And what happens next is key for Brahmāyu's own awakening, isn't it? The progressive discourse.
Yes. This is a specific teaching method the Buddha used. It's step by step, designed to prepare the listener's mind.
How does it work?
It starts with basics like generosity, then morality, then the temporary happiness of heavenly realms.
Building block.
Kind of. Then it moves to the drawbacks, the dangers of sensual pleasures, and finally, the real benefits of renunciation, of letting go.
So it gradually lifts the mind.
Exactly. It makes the mind ready, calm, soft, clear, uplifted, without hindrances. Once Bhagava saw Brahmi's mind was in that state.
Then he taught the core truth.
Then he taught the special Dhamma unique to Buddhas. Suffering, its cause, its end, and the path to that end. The Four Noble Truths, essentially.
And Brahmāyu got it. Instantly.
Instantly. Like a clean cloth soaking up dye, the text says. He gained the Dhamma right there.
The Dhamma, what's that?
It's that moment of profound insight, seeing directly the fundamental truth. Whatever arises, ceases. Understanding impermanence at a deep level.
A real aha moment. Life-changing.
Totally transformative. Brahmāyu immediately declares himself a lifelong lay follower of the Buddha, the Dhamma teachings, and the Sangha community.
And he shows his gratitude.
Yes. Invites Bhagava and all the monks for meals for the next 7 days, a generous offering. Bhagavad accepts silently.
And what became of Brahmāyu?
He hosted them for the 7 days. Soon after Bhagavas left the region, Brahmāyu passed away peacefully.
And his destiny, did the monks ask?
They did. And Bhagava confirmed that Brahmāyu, being wise and having practiced well, wasn't reborn in a lower state. He reached a high heavenly realm.
And from there?
From there, he would attain final nibbana, complete liberation. He would never return to the cycle of birth and death, having broken the main fetters binding him.
So a complete success story born from initial skepticism.
A powerful one.
We've really journeyed through quite an encounter today, haven't we? From this incredibly detailed physical observation,
Right down to the texture of the skin and the way he walked.
all the way to this profound spiritual awakening for Brahmāyu. You should now have this really detailed portrait of the Buddha, not just from abstract ideas, but through the eyes of people who actually met him.
Yeah, seeing those subtle details, feeling the impact he had.
And the story of Brahmāyu and Uttara, it gives us this fascinating peek into ancient beliefs about enlightenment, sure.
But it's also such a strong illustration, isn't it? How deep learning, that real scholarly curiosity,
Combined with an open heart, a willingness to see.
can lead to incredible personal transformation. It shows that real understanding can come from that rigorous observation and being ready for spiritual insight.
They can go hand in hand.
Definitely.
So here's something to think about. Consider how much maybe we overlook in our own lives because we're not observing with that kind of precise, patient attention.
Good question.
What deeper insights might you gain about the world, about other people, maybe even about yourself, if you tried to cultivate just a bit of that mindful observation, like Uttara?
And that open, seeking mind, like Brahmāyu, what might open up?